Okay, so we're going to make a left right up here. And our destination is right at the end of this road.
Okay. Jeff, why are you dressed in all khaki? Is that a pith helmet?
It is. I'm dressed like this because we're heading to the desert.
In Freeport, Maine?
Yeah, in Maine. We're heading to the desert in search of a hermit. Hello, I'm Jeff Belanger, and welcome to episode 220 of the New England Legends podcast. Give us about 10 minutes. We'll give you something strange to talk about today.
And I'm Ray Auger. Thanks for joining us on our mission to chronicle every legend in New England, one story at a time. We're a community of legend seekers who love sharing stories that make New England unique. Whether it's our haunts and monsters, our strange history, or roadside oddities, and those memorable people who have stuck out over time and reached legendary status. We love when you connect with us and share what we do with a friend or two.
Now, before we hit the Desert of Maine, we want to take just a minute to tell you about our sponsor, Nuwadi Herbals.
Yep, it's November, and it's turning colder.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice how on these chilly days, even your bones and joints seem to ache?
We are getting older, Ray.
That's true. But it's more than that.
I know, I get it.
Sometimes I need to get warmed up from the inside. Instead of hitting the drive-thru for some overpriced sugar and caffeine-filled concoction that isn't really good for me anyway, I've been making some afternoon buffalo bone tea from Nuwadi Herbals.
Ooh, that's a good choice. Buffalo bone tea has alfalfa leaf, dandelion root, marshmallow root, plantain leaf, and other natural ingredients to help support our body's structure. And I'm reading the tea's label right here. No, it doesn't actually contain buffalo bones, and it won't give you buffalo breath.
Well, that's good. So many Nuwadi Herbals products have been a part of my daily life. Their teas and balms and lotions and their bath salts, they've all made a difference in the way I feel each day.
Let Nuwadi Herbals help support your healthy lifestyle. Check out the Nuwadi Herbals website to see all their great products. And you legendary listeners, you get 20% off your order when you use the promo code LEGENDS20 at checkout. Don't forget to use it. Visit NuwadiHerbals.com. That's Nuwati herbals with an S.com.
All right, Jeff, so you said we're heading to a desert in Maine.
Right.
I didn't know that New England had any deserts.
So it turns out there's one in Maine, and it's been a tourist attraction for almost a century.
Wow, you weren't kidding. It's a desert.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a huge area. In fact, the sign tells me that it's just about 40 acres. Not exactly the Sahara.
Right.
But it's all sand surrounded by walls of pine trees. It almost looks like a big golf course, but instead of grass fairways, it's all sand.
Today, the Desert of Maine is a campground and a place you can pay to visit during the warmer months of the year. But a century ago, this place got famous not just because of what it is, but for a strange hermit who lived nearby. A hermit by the name of Coffin.
Oh, that's a great name.
So to figure out how this got here, let's head back to 1797 and meet the Tuttle family.
It's the spring of 1797, and William Tuttle has just bought 300 acres of land right here where we're standing. Tuttle gets to work. He builds a large barn. He grows potatoes and lets his flock of sheep graze the pastures.
Pretty soon, this place looks like a big, successful farm. Things are going well for the Tuttles.
Years pass, and William Tuttle passes his farm on to his kids, who continue to grow potatoes in the same fields where their father grew them. They let their sheep graze in the same pastures. But now there's even more sheep, and it's a lot of work to run a farm. But the family has it down now.
But there is a problem.
Okay, what's that?
When you have a farm, you're supposed to turn the crops.
What does that mean?
So it means you can't grow the same exact crop in the same exact fields year after year because each plant pulls different nutrients from the soil. So if you never change the crop, over time the soil is depleted and pests and weeds can move in and make your life difficult. Now eventually you need to get rid of all the soil and add new dirt and start over.
Okay, well that makes sense. So I take it the Tuttles aren't rotating their crops.
No, it's just potatoes year after year. By the 1860s, their soil is starting to sour. But there's another problem.
What now?
Those sheep. They're allowed to overgraze in the pastures.
Tell me what's wrong with that.
Well, it's not the biggest problem if you have plenty of land and you can move the sheep on to different pastures, which allows, the eaten field to regrow. But the Tuttles are letting the sheep eat just about everything. Eventually, it becomes a big problem.
Hey, look over there. I can see Mr. Tuttle pointing to a strange spot in the field. Let's go check it out.
Okay.
Look at that. There's this patch of sand. It's not very big, maybe the size of a dinner plate. And it looks like beach sand.
That is strange, but no big deal. I mean, it's just one little patch of sand.
Right, no big deal. Weeks go by, and suddenly another patch of sand catches Mr. Tuttle's eye. And then another patch.
And then another.
The more the sheep graze the fields, the more patches of sand show up. And pretty soon, those patches aren't the size of dinner plates anymore. They've grown into pond-sized fields of sand.
And now there's a much bigger problem. When winds and storms blow through, it's picking up the sand and laying it across the potato field almost like a blanket of snow. And pretty soon, the Tuttle farm is a total loss. Inches of sand are covering all the fields and piling up against the barn and the house. The Tuttles are forced to abandon their farm and just move on.
Locals start referring to this place as the Tuttle Sand Farm.
Sand dunes build up on parts of the property. I mean, they engulf an apple tree on the farm and then get blown over a week later, revealing the apple tree again. And while this place is a total failure as a farm, locals, well, they kind of like to hang out here on the sand. They have picnics. And sometimes the younger folks throw parties into the night, especially during Prohibition in the 1920s.
Well, why not, right? It's abandoned. It's unique. And no one will see you drinking out here.
Right. But one night, one of these parties rages late into the night, and suddenly there's a fire. The old Tuttle house is engulfed in flames. Everything burns but the barn. The place is a mess. It's 1925 when a man named Henry Goldrip shows up. Where everyone else sees a mess, Henry sees an opportunity. He buys the sand farm for $400 in back taxes. Some folks laugh at his folly. They tell him this mountain of sand isn't worth $40. They laugh and they laugh, but Henry has plans. Route 1 is only 2 miles away. If all those tourists heading up and down Maine's coast knew this place existed, maybe they'd pay to see it.
Tourists need more than just sand to show up. So Henry sells ice cream and hot dogs and offers walking tours. It's Goldrip who brands this place the Desert of Maine.
And we should point out that this, quote, desert does fall a little bit short of the standard definition.
How so?
Deserts are defined as arid land with sparse vegetation.
Okay, we got that.
And it needs to be desolate.
Yep, check still got that.
Technically, there's no size requirement on a desert, so we're still okay there, but the last requirement is less than 10 inches of rainfall per year.
Now, Freeport averages about 50 inches per year. Got it. But these are technicalities. When I look around, I see a desert.
Agreed. Pretty quickly, Henry Goldrip's $400 bet pays off. Tourists come by. They pay to see it. They buy ice cream. And they take tours. Word spreads, and the legend of this roadside attraction grows.
Henry Goldrip's tours explain how the Desert of Maine was created. It turns out, during the Ice Age, more than 25,000 years ago, giant glaciers moved south across all this land. Those glaciers ground up the rocks and earth below into fine sand. When the glaciers retreated, the sand settled. Over time, moss and ferns grew up through the sand. Trees came in and other plants. Now, over the course of centuries, topsoil formed from rotted trees and leaves and other natural cycles of nature to the point where all the sand was hidden just below the surface. Then the Tuttle farm moved in, allowing grazing sheep and unturned crops to undo all of this growth in a matter of decades. Pretty soon, the Desert of Maine was so popular that cars started lining up from Route 1 all the way along the 2-mile stretch of road to the desert site.
The traffic is a nightmare. Now, thankfully, not too many people live along this empty road leading up to the Desert of Maine, but there is this one family also situated on the road. The Allen family, Leonard and Marion. Now, they too have a farm. It's the Allens who see all of this traffic and get an idea. So they build a shack along the road and invite a local vaudeville musician named Charlie Coffin to set up shop in there. He sells his trinkets and paintings and charges people to look around inside.
Now, I guess if tourists will line up to see a bunch of sand, maybe as they creep by this shack, they might pay a few pennies to get entertained.
Coffin hangs out a sign and encourages passersby to pay 15 cents to come see the Hermit of Maine.
It's nothing like a hermit who advertises.
And pretty soon, the Hermit is a hit.
Charlie Coffin looks the part, too. He's got the beard, long hair, and looks just disheveled enough. So people stop and take a closer look.
Charlie Coffin plays his organ and sings songs like Casey Jones as visitors look around his shack and buy his paintings and trinkets. Coffin spends years living off the fat of the Desert of Maine's fame. And that brings us back to today.
Charlie Coffin died in 1941 at the age of 47. Though his legend lives on thanks to the countless photos taken of him in his life, as hermits go, he wasn't shy. And he's not the first enterprising hermit we've covered on this podcast.
No, he's not. Back in episode 99, we covered the story of English Jack, the hermit of the White Mountains of New Hampshire. He also charged people to look inside his shack and also sold trinkets and souvenirs.
Which is counter to everything a hermit is supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a hermit is supposed to be reclusive, to live out somewhere alone, away from people.
And yet we're fascinated with hermits because we wonder if they've acquired some divine knowledge. So we seek them out. The very clever and enterprising hermits understand their built-in appeal and advertise it. I mean, how often does one get to see a hermit?
I guess every day of the week if you're heading to the Desert of Maine in Freeport during the summer.
Good point. The Desert of Maine is still an area attraction. In the summer months, you can camp here and still take tours. But you might want to hurry if you'd like to see it.
Why is that?
Because it's shrinking. With no more sheep and farm, the trees and mosses are coming through. Give this place a few more centuries, and it could be a forest once again.
You never know when a piece of land will turn into something more than a local oddity, and when an enterprising sort of person will show up on the scene and become a local legend. You can see historic pictures of Charlie Coffin in the Desert of Maine on our website. Just click on episode 220.
While you're on our website, you can see everything else that we do. There's a link to buy the 2022 Haunted New England wall calendar, a link to download our free smartphone app developed by Forest City Marketing, links to the New England Legends television series, and of course, a link to our Patreon page.
Our Patreon patrons are the backbone of everything we do. For just $3 per month, they get early access to new episodes, plus bonus episodes and content that no one else gets to hear. If you can help support us, head over to patreon.com/New England Legends to sign up.
We'd like to thank everyone for the great feedback on our Halloween special last week.
Thank you.
Maybe we'll do more episodes like that in the future. And of course, thank you to our sponsor, Nuwadi Herbals, and our theme music is by John Judd.
Hi, I'm Amelia DeVere from Georgetown, Massachusetts, and next time remember, the bizarre is closer than you think.